go. Okay, I think we're finally there. Sorry for the late wait there. Right, so the if you can't already tell, I am like halfway through setting this computer up, which is why it's in such a shambles. But forgive me for all the technical mishaps. The plan today is to take a look at React Router remixes, React Server Components preview. This was just put out here by Ryan a couple of days ago, and I haven't at all had a chance to look at it yet. So I like skimmed this blog, but in about 30 seconds. So I'm really, really excited to take a look at what they've put out here. I know it's something that they've been working towards for years now. Like, it's been, obviously React Server Components has been such a hot topic for so long. Really cool piece of tech, and something that I think the Remix team have been really eager to get behind and figure out how best to support within their universe. And it's taken a couple of iterations, and this isn't necessarily the final one, but this is their preview release that they've put out, so obviously getting closer. And I think I saw that this is backed by Parcel, one of the bundlers that does have React Server Components. Parcel bundler. It's one of the bundlers which has support for React Server Components, one of the few that do, because, for example, Vite, which is Remixes and React Router's default bundler, does not. So they've had to put out this preview using Parcel while we wait for efforts for React Server Components support to catch up across the rest of the ecosystem. So we got a repo that we're definitely going to be checking out, some demo and code. I don't know if that's the same thing or if it's a different thing. I want to take a look at just the experience that they're offering people. So now that I'm able to use React Server Components inside application powered by React Router, what does it look like from an authoring perspective? Is it exactly the same as the like style of components that I would author for an XJS app, or am I doing things slightly differently? Remix and React Router have had loaders and actions for a while, and so they've got some different conventions, so I'm excited to see how they've kind of melded them together. And then also maybe take a look behind the hood to see what's happening. I'm not sure if we'll get to that today, but I would be interested to see if there's any anything special that they're doing to power this stuff. Obviously, they need to set up all of the like server function routing pieces and that sort of stuff. Might be a bit interesting, so we'll see if there's anything there. Maybe some other bundling with Parcel. I've no idea. I've never really looked at Parcel's API properly, so some of that might go straight over my head, or it might just be totally magicked away by Parcel. We'll see. Yeah, that's basically it, I think. So it's just like what's the experience as a user, and maybe a little bit under the hood of how does this stuff work. Like I say, I haven't even read the blog post properly, so we're also going to be going through that to start with. Jacob is the guy to shout out. He's been doing this for a long time, and yeah, I've been following him on Twitter. If you're not already, definitely worth following. He does a lot of cool science experiments with React. Very, very interesting work. And it seems like he's been the sort of driving force behind a lot of this. So here we have our repo. This is, I think, this same one here. All I've done is just clone it. And this is a computer that I've literally not even got set up at all. So I've got one extension, and I just set up Git. So I'm definitely going to be missing some bits and pieces here. Again, excuse me whilst I figure that out. So where even is my... Okay, files. Here we go. So let's take a look at the README and see if we can get this thing running locally. I don't even have Node installed, so oh my god, it's going to be a bit painful. Apologies. And And okay, we'll look at that in a minute. So let's even just try and get this thing running. So I really don't think I do have Node installed. Okay. We're just gonna sling some stuff in here real quick. Didn't even run anything. What? There we go. Okay, now we're using pm, so it's npm install pm. Oh my goodness, install. Cannot. Let's try MVM then. MVM install node. Cool. npm install npm. There we go. Okay. Right. And now if we pm dev. So yeah, like we said, this is using parcel, which I'm not super familiar with, but let's see what happens. And nice. Okay, we have some stuff happening at least. Hello. I have no idea. Okay, we've at least got some like pages going. Load of data. Right, let's take a look at what's happening here. So, pointing us towards anything? No, not really. Don't deploy it. Okay, that sounds like a challenge. Maybe we try that at the end. So, let's take a look. So we have sort of typical. Maybe I should go back to the blog post. Let's see what thing is the most interesting to look at. So, like I said, Remix and React Router have loader concepts, and it appears that in here we're returning. So these execute on the server typically, and they're encouraging us to return components from here, which is not how loaders worked prior to RSCs. Previously, they would typically just return some data, and then you would use like get loader data or something like that inside your component as like a React hook, and then you could like render your components with data there. But it appears here we're being encouraged. Oh, okay, sorry. It's still an object. And we've just got some content. Content can be a component, and we're just rendering it as part of the sort of layout piece here. Interesting. Okay. Let's see what that looks like inside some of this stuff. So if we've got our home, right. So if we flick back to our app, let's get them side by side. I also don't have any of my keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so our loader here is just returning some data. This is the sort of more traditional way, but I don't think they used to get them as props. I'm pretty sure you would previously use loader data hook. Use loader data React Router. This may be changed when we went to React Router. No, still the same. Yeah. So loader would return some data, and then you would use this React hook, which gave you that data. And obviously, in the case that this was being SSR, that would just be like provided there for you. But if you're in like client side mode, once the thing is hydrated, then this would be making all of your calls for you as this component rendered, or as the, I suppose, routes were being determined for React Router. So we got an example of a component here where the loader's returning itself, like JSX stuff, or nah? Maybe not. That's maybe something we can play with. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Okay, cool. Well, let's try that out ourselves in a bit. What else have we got? So for the routing stuff, current route modules can be thought of client component routes. That's kind of standard in that as you migrate a React project to using React Server components, a lot of the stuff that you have might have client-side state interaction or something quite top level, and so it makes the whole tree of your app really have to be using client stuff. So it's usually a case that you sort of peel off the stuff, re-architect things kind of top down a little bit, where you try and keep things on the servers as much as you can, and then only at the very end add in this client side state where you need it for like a use effect or use state, something like that. So it's not surprising that any existing React Router routes are sort of deemed client until we maybe deal with re-architect them in some sort of way. So you can return React Server component content from loaders sent to a client component route. It isn't the full version. Okay, so they want something more. In support to that vision, you also create React Server component burst server component route. So I guess this is the maybe the first one. Yes, where you're just returning React Server components from loaders, but the rest of this route is still sort of traditional, maybe. Let's see if we can get a further example. Returning React Server components. Yeah. Or SCR, server component routes, not to be confused with RSCs or CSR. Yes, there's a lot of acronyms, and we love those three letters. Server routes are defined by exporting a server component instead of default. Okay, I didn't pick up on that. Okay, so this is the default. So this is the client component routes, and this is a server component routes. And what's the difference here? Okay. So this is how they're drawing the line between all of this, like code for rendering this component is being sent to the client. This whole piece, but this bit is being turned into HTML, and only that is being delivered to the client. So this is obviously one of the big advantages of React Server components, is that you get to strip down your app to just the client-side hydration pieces plus React runtime that are needed on the client. Everything else stays server-side. And so it's a big advantage for app performance, bytes delivered, all that fun stuff. So this is the sort of opt-in path for that. And yeah, exactly. So you still add in use client marked components to signal the fact to the bundler that these things need some sort of client-side state. They need hydrated on the client. Nested routes can be a mix of both server component routes and existing client component routes. So you can use RSC where it makes sense. Oh, that's really cool. I wonder if once you hand over to a client component route, you can then go back to a server component route. Typically, you can't in a React server component tree, but that would be interesting to see, especially since they're specifically calling out nested routes. Usually it works that you can start with the top of your app being rendered on the server, and then as soon as you hand over to the client, you're basically fully on the client at that point, which is why you want to push it all the way down, as low down the tree as you possibly can. It would make sense that individual routes are evaluated on a server or client basis for a React Router project, but I'm really curious if I can mix server and client component routes interleaved as children. So we'll take a look at that too. Let's just make this full screen. This is what we're doing primarily at the moment. Oh, I'm lost without my keyboard shortcuts. There we go. Server components routes we've done. Server routes plus loaders and actions. Server routes can still define. So yeah, loaders and actions, very cool pattern. We've still got that. Let's see how they get used. So loaders run before React server components. Sure. Yep, that's standard. So you can use this for like authorization or whatever else. If you need to change the status code, you would use a loader. So all of the loaders of your app get run before the stream even begins. Fair enough. So good for collecting data, but not necessarily great for a really interactive thing where the component wants to decide what data it should be doing. So this is great for like anything you need, but not necessarily all the possibilities of things. In that case, you would be wanting different pattern where the component itself is getting the data. We're not seeing any actions here, but we can maybe go and maybe they're a little bit redundant now with server actions or whatever server components call them. We'll take a look. Speak of the devil, server functions. Here we go. Okay, so really nice pattern that React kind of adopted a little bit from Remix, where form actions can be like methods. I think, or am I getting my stream mixed up? I can't remember. Yeah, this was kind of the actions of Remix. Anyway, so with this, you maybe don't need the sort of traditional actions that Remix and React Router had. So that's cool. And then, yeah, client components are as they were. Okay, cool. Right, let's go back to this thing and see if with all that context we can make some more sense of this app. So the very first thing we've got is a server. We're serving a static directory. Sure, we have that for some reason. And start it up, and we're using some of this virtual module magic to spin this thing up. I'm guessing this points to root. Let's see if we've got some config here. Yeah, okay, so we're just saying, yeah, boot up app. And I'm guessing like node is saying just run the server. Yeah, and that's just going to be... Okay, that's a whole bunch of gubbins. Get rid of this for now. So if we go back to root, this is going to be the... Hold on, let me see if I can turn on some microphone muting magic or something for you guys. Because it's super loud over here. Voice isolation. That sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. Cool. And let me just make sure I'm not getting any comments of this whole thing is completely failing for streaming reasons. Nothing horrendous, but Twitch still looks out of action for some unknown reason. Okay, cool. Back to this. Oh, and the music stopped. Let me flip that back on if I can. There we go. Yeah, okay, so let's take a look at this app and this code and see what's happening. So we have a root layout, which is just returning all of the sort of HTML shell. We have some links here in the navs, cool. And then we're rendering our children. That's all pretty standard. We got this layout piece, and then we have a server component piece and our error boundary. So they said, if we go back to our blog, that if you export a function called server component, that's the thing that's opting you in. So that's what we're doing here. I wonder if they intend to ever flip this around to be the default state. Who knows? So we don't have, oh god, it's been so long since I've looked at any of this. We have a default export. Okay, fine. I'm guessing layout is one of these named ones. This thing renders the outlet. This presumably gets rendered inside children. Should we just double check this? Oh my goodness, I don't even have developer mode. Is that here? So inside body after header, we have div root. Yeah, exactly. So this server component is being rendered inside our layout. That makes sense. And presumably that will switch if I go to a different root. Okay, so this is just the parent. If I go into home, this is the server component that gets rendered inside that. Yes, I'm with you. And then if I flip to about, this is the server component that gets rendered inside that. Yeah, okay, cool. That makes sense to me. So the routing bit is all pretty straightforward. But let's see if we can take a closer look at some of the fun components themselves. CSS, I don't care about. Routes. This is the pointing where they are. Root.client. What's this? Ah, okay. So this seems to be global navigation loading bar. Interesting pattern. Okay, so you need to have use client at the start of your component or module to say that you want this thing to run on client. We're sort of setting up a convention here. I can't remember if anybody's still using file name .client convention to tell the bundler to do this thing, but at least this certainly is. So this could maybe be a component inside a components folder or something, but it could also just be a convention that you say, oh, you want to put all the client pieces of the route that you're on in a .client folder just for the sake of having it co-located right beside it. Mark it as use client so the bundler knows what's going on, and then you can have all of your fun interactivity pieces here. Interesting. So this is supposed to be doing some sort of animation thing whilst the pages load, is that right? It's maybe a bit too fast for local. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Context. Nothing too interesting there. So this homepage is the only one with any real interesting things on it. So we have a loader, standard React Router loader. It's just returning some data. We could be returning some React server components from here. One thing we didn't see in that blog post is the combination of both React server components from loaders and a server component route. I wonder if they ever expect those two to be mixed. Because you certainly can. You can have a loader with a thing. We'll maybe try that. Anyway, we return some data and what do we do here? So don't know what this is. Pull async provider. Is that what that context thing was? Possibly. Yes, string context. Hello. Yeah, so where is that coming from then? This hello world. Its name's not being updated. Oh, but I did see it here in the server logs. Server action. Okay, so this just isn't setting anything. So that's why we're not seeing it reflected here. Name is... Right, that's never being used. But if I did something like name equals foo, then it would be. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. It's just a bit unexpected. But I think everything is still working as it's supposed to. It's just there's code doesn't exist for what I thought it would do. I thought this would update my state such that name here would be being set, but it's not. This is only ever coming from my search params, and search params aren't being updated as part of submission. Fair enough. Cool. So client side components like this button for showing us our pending state still works. Actions with binding data, sure. Yeah, cool. I kind of get it now. Sorry, I think that was just a lot of me speaking through it myself, but I kind of need to do that sometimes. What else we got in here? Anything fun? Oh, here's our virtual modules that we had. Okay, so here's all the behind the scenes sneaky stuff of how this stuff works. I wonder if they, oh boy, expect any of this stuff to be in people's projects, or this all looks like pretty sane entry point files. So that might just be that ejection discovery sort of stuff we've seen the Remix team do previously. But yeah, very, very exciting. This is server DOM parcel. Okay. With this stuff, that's interesting. So they're using, I forget what these import assertions to mark stuff, whereas previously I've seen bundlers using just multiple different passes of whatever that's called. The stuff you put in your package JSON, like the exports, their conditions or whatever they're called. Cool. Nice to have a real project where we can like intermix, where we can experiment with all this sort of stuff. So one thing I did say I wanted to look at was whether or not I could return RSC from a loader to a server component. So let's just try this out and see. Greg's component, and then we're just going to return like some JSX here. And how are we getting loader data? Loader data breaks component. Let's see what happens here. Ooh. Yep, she's unhappy. What have I done wrong? Top level render called using H1. Each key in a list. Where is the list? I didn't make a list. Have I done something wrong? It's maybe got to be an async function somehow or something. I don't quite know what I've done wrong there. And this looks pretty much exactly like that to me. JSX element, yep. Yeah, it's maybe server components don't like rendering that. Let's see if we have. Do we have a route which isn't a server component? Let's add in a new one. Let's go for it. So foo.tsx, and we're going to let's just take their example. This guy. Dump it in here. Configure the routes. Boo. Boo. Fix it up so it doesn't yell at me. Ooh, is that different? No. Boo. There we go. Right. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, all this stuff, and just return I. Get rid of all this. So what was this called? This was a client component route, and then that is our RSC from loader. So if I go here, /foo, what happens? Oh, it doesn't like that. How do I configure routes on these things? Do I need to restart it? Ooh. That looks very reasonable to me. What am I missing? I have no idea. What's wrong with that? That looks completely standard to me. I must be missing something. Here? No? Where is about here? Well, surely not. Like, who? Oh, have I not been building it? Do I need to pm run builds or something? Ooh, didn't like that. Okay. Doesn't like this. Cannot find the module. Blah, blah, blah. Experimental stuff. I didn't do anything. Does it not like the type import that I have here? That feels standard. Oh, I don't know. Still very unhappy about that. Okay. It's maybe not supported. And maybe I'm being horrible for testing this out from. Let's see if we can get just another route going. Let's just copy this in. Bosh. And foo page. This is my foo page. Boo. Yeah, okay, something's weird here. Foo page. Okay. And we're not able to do export default function. I know you're not a server component, but who cares? Build. Yeah, okay. Doesn't like that. Something's not hooked up to run client routes in this app. Doesn't look like. Fair enough. Let's see. There was another demo. Let's see if that one's more involved. Movie demo. Yeah, okay. This is looking very whatever his name is, Dan style. Yes. Okay, okay. Yep. I can already start to see how this is going to be built in my head. That's cool. Right, let's clone some of this. Okay, clone, blah. CD, RSC, movies. And open that one up. Yes. Hey, there we go. Where is my... Oh, I definitely don't have Docker installed. I can maybe get away without it, or does it need... It's just SQLite. That's probably okay. npm install. Let's find out. Package JSON. Yeah, nothing there looks too scary. What is this doing anyway? It's just installing stuff. Yeah, that's all fine. npm run dev. Did I stop the other one? Yes. Okay. We got data and errors, warnings. I mean, we need to build it first. npm run build. npm dev. Still got errors. Oh, bigger errors. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We had it rendering for a second there. doesn't like build, maybe like git clean clean that npm install. Should have maybe just ignored the first error. There we go. And is it working? Can we click things? Yes, yes. Refresh. Yep. Okay. Should have just ignored the errors. Let's take a look at how this one works. So what have we got? We got the same server, this thing doing the same stuff. Yep. Root is doing much the same. The server, interesting. Oops. Server component here just does the outlet. So I wonder why that's needed. I didn't look at the middleware before. Oh, well. Let's take a look at some of these things. So we got a header component. What's that going to be? Just regular old server component, I'm guessing. Yeah, server components. Okay. I think. What is this session? Cookies, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Context. Async look stores. Okay, this is definitely server-side components here. Nice. Okay, so the layout that you have runs on the thing. That kind of makes sense. I think if I was to change this to default, then layout would suddenly become client and everything would break, I suspect. Let's take a look at some of the routes, American, that we have. So we're again using server components. So we're using server components for them all. We are. Oh, wow. Okay, a bit more involved. That's nice. This gives us a bit of an insight into how to do real data loading with some of this React Server Component stuff. So what have we got here? I think this is going to be a really key thing for React Server Components in general, because it runs on the server and because you have such raw access to the database in these sorts of ways. I think a lot of people will be doing the classic meme of SQL directly from within components. And fine for prototypes, but I think that's going to really trip people up when we have when you actually try and build a real business app from that, because your data layer being interspersed throughout your app in that way is going to be so hard to keep track of. I think people will be building like domain-driven database service layers. Will lead to a much cleaner architecture. Yeah, and okay, so that's exactly what we have here. We have all of our server, our database stuff all in one place. Yeah, nice. Okay, so we have nice abstraction here. What does load do? It just gives you the, yeah, fine, database piece itself. Maybe loads you movies. Yeah, okay. These some of the server functions. Yes. Okay, nice session interaction here, which we saw was on cookies. And some nice use of this more server-side-ish APIs that React are offering now. Again, a lot of this stuff was coming from, or inspired by at least, some of the remix pieces that were built. Okay, we have quite a lot here. Sorry, I'm just kind of flicking around to get a sense of what might be, who cares, it's just a demo. Interesting to look at here. What's this thing do? Just say, yeah, expose. Okay, yeah, just a container. Let's take a look at the middleware. That was something I neglected in the previous one. So we had that in, was it? Yes, session middleware. So this is going to be loading up context for us with some stuff. And this is an ALS context, yeah. That's really cool. That's exactly, no, that's in fact not exactly what I thought ALS would be good for. I did a talk a while ago now on how I thought ALS would be used like React context, but not for application stuff like this is, but rather used as a bridge between the platform and the application. Here we are very much using it within the context of the application. It's holding our like favorites information, that sort of thing. And that's fine, but it does lead to a little bit of non-linearity of yeah. I won't check it. That's not a bad pattern, having it like this. It's quite nice. Especially in middleware. My reason that I didn't like it before was just that you didn't know for sure that a parent component had called, like if you were just a child component and you were using ALS, you were dependent on some parent above you creating the context that you then consume. And with React Server components, the whole point is that these things can just kind of, well, components generally is that they can be scattered around in any order, and you don't really have great control. But what Ryan's done here with this being in middleware is obviously we're saying, hey, middleware runs in front of every request, and so we're just priming it context that will be available to all children when they need it. So that is totally acceptable, very much so. And that's kind of what I was getting at with my like platform talk, is saying that, hey, platform primitives that you want to access, like the example for Cloudflare is like our bindings, are obviously always available to your whole app, because it happens right at the start. So I would use async local storage to create some context as I'm rendering my app right at the very start in like server TS here, and bridge the gap between platform stuff and my app. But they've kind of done a similar sort of thing with middleware, saying, hey, I have some context here. It's going to be available for my whole app. I'm just going to register it right at the top, and then all my children can access it, which is very fair enough. What I would avoid doing is creating context in a component. That feels a little bit more rogue. Okay, cool. So yeah, we got some yeah, and essentially this is just a property of the request, right? So this is exactly like request.cf or something. We're accessing a request cookie, and we're seeding that. We're just like hydrating the information from the request. So very, very reasonable. What was the other middleware that they had? Was it? Yes. Okay, so this is just priming up some data services, which I have definitely done myself. Similar sort of thing. All children want to be able to access this. You might not want to do this in all cases. Like if you're, I don't know, on auth, you don't want to even load the data middleware. But for this app, fair enough. Yeah, very cool. Shame we still haven't gotten the... let's see if we can make some changes. So, can I add in, like this blog says, a mixture of client... What was it? Like this stuff. This is what I want to have. But I don't think this is going to work here either. Just based off of vibes. So, if I go into a route and I add a foo route... chips, and our content is I love chips, and we get rid of this, and we get rid of this. It's right dot letter args, yeah, sure, and we do this, and it's right dot component props, yep, and I say I'm I'm a client route. Here's some RSC chips. Loader data content. Okay, rid of all that. You are unhappy, so I'm going to check a question mark in front of you. And you are unhappy for unknown reasons. Okay, let's go to routes, and I'm gonna say foo. Points to foo. And now I'm going to run foo. Womp womp womp. Oh, she's unhappy. I wonder if it's the middleware, because the other one had middleware as well, but that runs server and then it doesn't hand over to client very well or something. No, routes matched location. No. So maybe I just kill it. Start it again. No. Yeah, I don't think these child routes are client routes are being registered properly. I'm maybe just doing it very, very wrong. I just do not know. Oh well. Let me get rid of them. Oh, still unhappy. What have I done? Oh, it's because I'm going to foo. It's a 404. There we go. Nice. Any other fun secrets? This looks straight out of some of Michael's Remix the Web stuff. Yeah. Let's find out for you. So let's start this thing. Get rid of this promise. I don't think we do. Return response. Return that. That should be it, right? If I know my ALS. I know my ALS. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Improved it for you. Okay, what else? Was there anything else on the blog that I was captivated by? So this bit we didn't get working, but I trust that it will come. And it's more about the migration story anyway. So it's not really... I only really care about the end vision at the moment. So they don't expect people to be doing this long term. A, using client routes, and B, intermingling them with server routes. So no big deal. Eventually, everyone will be on server routes and the world will be fantastic. We've certainly seen plenty of that today. Love being able to just fetch data here. Cool that they're not using loaders for everything. Like we saw some places where they do. So in this case, you know that if you're on this route, you for sure need this data, so it makes sense to do it. But in the case of actor, it doesn't for some reason. Why is that? I think I totally could move that up into there because I might return a 404 for the actor page. But in some cases when I'm conditionally rendering a component, I don't want to override the... I suppose these would all be the... Yeah, so these are the components inside the components folder are the types of components which are conditionally rendered on the page, which do not get their own loaders because they just need to pull the data that they require on the fly. That makes lots of sense to me. Yes, with you there. Even session stuff, because we've added it in as middleware and ALS context. But this one I would probably pull up into a loader because this is defining the page, and I'm with you now. That makes lots of sense. Yeah. So what I want to see from React Server Components is how you do this without doing the routing piece. I want to be able to use React Router as a library rather than as a framework for this, basically. Define a bunch of server components, do a bundle pass, render my app with a library of my choice. Yep. Cool. Maybe take a peek at some of this stuff. Let's see what we're doing. So, oh, interesting. They put all this stuff inside React Router. So, for those that are unaware, there exists inside the React repo, somewhere in here, React DOM feet, DSM, that one, yeah. Inside here is a bunch of experimental flight bindings, blah, blah, blah. And some of the stuff in here are... Oh my goodness, it's been a long minute. Yeah, all this stuff. And look, that looks very similar. I don't think any of them are the same, but trust me, they are. call something, call server. Yeah. There's definitely words that are shared. So they appear to be one of the big things for me. Was like, oh, you need to go in and you need to be inside the React repo to become a bundler, which can do RSC. Like you see it for Webpack, you see it for TurboPack, you see it for now Parcel. Facebook's one, ESM's one, Vite are putting up one. My goodness, what a burden. But it looks like we've pulled some of these things out and put them into the React router library. Some of it's still here for sure, but some of it is here, and that is interesting to me. Like, I wonder, this like client, this is server. I'm not sure. But yeah, to become a bundler which supports RSC, you basically need to be accepted into Facebook, like React, which is a high burden. A bit of a shame. Otherwise, you're just forking React and you're kind of DIYing it a bit. And a bit of a shame. There we go. Yeah, and it's all still very, very experimental, which is why all this stuff is warning you and all this sort of stuff. But let's see if we can try and unpick what's happening here. So we have the entries are the interesting ones, and in fact, all the rest of it's just type. So yeah, wow, only 3 files. Cool. Client entry, I feel that's a Parcel thing. I'm pretty sure I saw that when Parcel announced RSC client entry. Client. Yeah, they invented this new thing, new pragma to mark that for some reason. I'm sure they had legitimate reason, but I don't know what it is. It's maybe just to Parcel's a very like zero config sort of thing, so it's maybe just so that they don't need to tell you where the entry point is. So that's this. Cool. React Router, like the convention of entry dot thing, and like making it discoverable or something, or ejecting out. So this may not be required in the final version, possibly. Who knows? Anyway, sidetracked. Import all the stuff. Ooh, man. I would struggle to unpick what all this stuff means. So this tells you how to speak to the server, and it's basically just wrapping the transport. So I forget what they called it, but the RSC data is like donuts and holes and all that sort of stuff. And so that's what this is saying. Hey, when you go and speak to the server and you want to invoke some action, or you want to read some data, this is the transport to do so. And so yeah, we got stuff spanning both here. Create call server and set server stream. Okay, that's a server thing. That's okay. Yeah, we seem to be using. Okay, so it's interesting. I wonder what the divide is between React Router and Parcel here, where they've drawn that line. I'll look into that more closely later. And I think this is about reading stuff. We're saying, yeah, get the server stream, and here's how you render onto a page. Yeah, cool. So that's telling the browser how to boot a React server component client portion which speaks to some server. And then we have 2 entry points for one which serves SSR, so that'll be combining together the client and the RSC stuff to produce the final app. This is the RSC stuff. So this is the other half of the browser, and we're saying, hey, here's how you decode the stuff that you're getting from the client, and here's how you pass stuff back the other way. And so yeah, just like return a response with, oh, this will be interesting, how they got the information from the loaders. Yeah, so I bet you this is coming from React Router. Where's match? Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Cool. So they're saying we've evaluated all your loaders, we got the route match, and here's the information from it, including headers and all this sort of stuff. Very, very cool. And then server-side rendering will be taking like, okay, let's serve some client JavaScript stuff. And when you call a page for the first time, we will render it and then bootstrap you with your client. Oh, that's very cool. I like it. That makes a lot of sense. Nice. I am curious about how you would deploy this. This is looking pretty nodey. So I maybe won't try right now, but fascinating stuff. Yeah, really, really cool. I like it. I am definitely going to steal bits and pieces. Good job, remix team. Good job, everyone else doing stuff. Like I called out a few people in my tweet. Let me go and hunt them down because, yeah, love to see it finally getting out and some progress being made. Jacob, as we said, Ryan and Michael, everyone at Remix team. Devin's the guy that does Parcel, and Hiroshi is pioneering the, after a few attempts, the Vite in Facebook React stuff. So where we had all of these other bundlers, Vite will be joining them. There's a PR up somewhere. And so once we've got that, I think that unblocks React Router and other frameworks from more easily adopting some of the stuff. Let's take a look. Yeah, so this very, very comprehensively described PR, which I'm sure will be a bit of an effort to get in, but adding in React Server DOM Vite. Very, very cool. Yeah, don't think I've got anything else to add, but it was fun poking around. Good job, everybody. Excited to see where it lands. Thanks for hanging out on the stream. Let's figure out how to shut this down. See y'all on another